Good morning, friends. So glad to be with you today. I believe that each and every one of you is here for a purpose, that you're not just here by accident. God has a plan for your life. And I want to talk to you today about something that's going to help you see that you're on the right path. How do we know if we're really on the right track? How do we know that we're moving forward following the path God has set for us? Well, I've got good news for you. There are signs. And today I want to share with you the powerful signs that God is saying you are on the right path. One of the most powerful signs that you are on the right path is the sense of peace you feel, especially when things aren't perfect. Peace doesn't mean everything is smooth sailing or that there are no bumps along the way. No, it's much deeper than that. It's the assurance deep in your heart that despite the struggles, you're exactly where you need to be. It's knowing in the midst of confusion and uncertainty that God is with you, guiding you, and that you are moving in the direction He has planned for you. Let me give you an example from daily life. Think about a time when you faced a difficult decision, maybe a career change, a move to a new city, or a challenge in a relationship. In the beginning, you might have felt anxious, unsure, and perhaps even overwhelmed by the weight of the decision. But then, over time, a calm began to settle over you. Even when things weren't fully figured out yet, there was this quiet voice inside of you, a whisper that said, it's going to be okay. You're headed in the right direction. That is peace. It's not the absence of obstacles or troubles, but rather the presence of God's reassurance, a sense of security, and knowing that He's with you every step of the way. This peace is like an anchor that holds you steady when the storms of life try to toss you around. It allows you to move forward with confidence, even when things aren't perfect. In fact, there are times when peace actually arises in the midst of uncertainty. Think about a time when you were facing a tough situation. A job you didn't like, a relationship that was strained, or maybe you were just feeling stuck in life. The stress and anxiety might have been overwhelming, but then you began to notice something interesting. Even though nothing had changed yet, you were starting to feel more calm. There was a sense of assurance, like a weight being lifted off your shoulders. You weren't sure how it was all going to work out, but you knew deep inside that things were going to fall into place. That's the peace I'm talking about. It's God's peace, which doesn't come from the circumstances, but from knowing that God is in control. And when you feel this peace, it's a sign that you are on the right path. You see, peace is not always the easiest thing to come by. Life often pulls us in 1,000 directions, and it's easy to get caught up in the noise and chaos around us. But when you are on the right path, when you are walking in alignment with what God has called you to do, peace becomes your companion. It's like a gentle reminder that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Let me tell you about a friend of mine who was facing a huge career decision. She had been working in a job for years that she wasn't passionate about, and although she had a good salary and benefits, something didn't feel right. She had this nagging feeling that she was meant for something more, but fear and uncertainty were holding her back. She was torn. Should she stay in a comfortable job that provided stability, or should she take the leap into the unknown and pursue her dreams? For months, she wrestled with this decision, but all the while she kept praying. And as she prayed, something amazing started happening. Even though she didn't have all the answers, she began to feel peace in her heart. She realized that the peace wasn't about the decision itself. It was about knowing that whatever happened, God was with her. She felt an overwhelming sense that she didn't have to have it all figured out right now. The peace she experienced was a sign that God was leading her, guiding her to step out in faith. She made the decision to leave her job and pursue her passion. And while there were challenges ahead, the peace she felt through the process was undeniable. It wasn't the absence of fear or uncertainty, but the presence of something greater, the peace that surpasses understanding. It was like God was whispering to her heart, saying, you are on the right path, trust me. And you know what? The moment she made the decision, things started to align in ways she never imagined. Opportunities opened up, and she found herself in a position that felt more authentic to who she was. That peace didn't come from her circumstances changing. It came from her trust in God and His guidance. This is the kind of peace that God wants for each of us. It's a peace that's not based on how perfect everything is in our lives. It's a peace that comes from knowing that He is with us, even in the chaos. It's the kind of peace that makes you confident to take that next step, even when you don't know exactly what lies ahead. It's the assurance that you are on the right path, even when the path is not clearly laid out in front of you. So when you're facing uncertainty, when you're unsure if you're making the right choice, and when life feels like it's out of control, remember that peace. That peace is a sign that you're walking in alignment with God's will for your life. It's a sign that you are on the right path. Hold on to that peace, because it's not just a feeling, it's confirmation that God is guiding you. He's got you, and He's not going to let you go. You are exactly where you're meant to be, and you're headed in the right direction. Another powerful sign that you're on the right path is when opportunities start opening up around you. These opportunities may come in the form of new doors that you never even considered before, people who show up at just the right time, or circumstances that seem to fall into place effortlessly. It's not just about getting the right opportunities. It's about recognizing the divine timing and favor in those opportunities, which often arrive when you're least expecting them, but most needing them. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever felt stuck in a situation, unsure of how to move forward, and then suddenly something happens? Maybe a new job opportunity appears out of nowhere, or a person you hadn't spoken to in years reaches out and offers help or guidance. Maybe a chance encounter turns into something more significant than you ever imagined. It's as if the universe, or in this case God, has orchestrated these moments in your life to show you that you're on the right path. Let me share a story with you about a man named David, who had been struggling for years to find a job in a field he was passionate about. For the longest time, he worked in an unrelated field because he felt he had to make ends meet. But deep in his heart, David knew he was meant for something more. He had a vision of working in the creative arts, but no matter how much he prayed or put in the effort, nothing seemed to align. For years, he tried to break into the industry, but the doors always seemed closed. One day, he had an ordinary meeting with an old acquaintance. They caught up over coffee, and David shared his frustrations about his career. Little did he know, this acquaintance had recently become involved with a production company, and when they heard about David's passion and experience, they offered him a chance to work with them on a project. This was the opportunity David had been praying for, and it came unexpectedly at just the right time. He wasn't actively looking for this connection. It simply came to him because he was open to it. David took the leap and jumped into this new venture, and not only did he thrive, but it also led to even bigger opportunities in his field. Now, you might wonder, how do we recognize when these opportunities are coming our way? It's often not about us chasing after them with desperation or force. It's about being in the right place, being open, and most importantly, being aligned with the path God has set for us. When we're on the right path, the doors open almost effortlessly. It's as if everything is aligning to help us move forward, and we begin to see opportunities where we hadn't seen them before. Another powerful example comes from a woman named Maria. She had been running a small business for years, and while it was doing okay, it wasn't growing at the pace she had hoped for. Maria had always dreamed of expanding her business to a larger market, but wasn't sure how. She started praying, asking God to show her a way, but despite her hard work and determination, things weren't changing. Then one day, as she was attending a networking event, she met a fellow entrepreneur who had experience in the exact area Maria was trying to. They struck up a conversation, and as they exchanged ideas, this person mentioned an opportunity to collaborate on a large project that could bring exposure to Maria's business. At first, Maria was hesitant, thinking the project might be too big for her, but something inside of her told her this was the opportunity she had been waiting for. Maria took a deep breath and decided to take a risk. She partnered with this new connection, and the collaboration turned out to be a game changer. The project not only helped her business gain the visibility she needed, but also brought in new clients and business partners. That one chance meeting at the right moment completely changed the trajectory of Maria's business. This wasn't a coincidence. It was the result of being on the right path, of trusting God to lead her, and being open to the opportunities He placed in her life. What's incredible about these stories is how the opportunities arrived in ways that neither David nor Maria could have planned or predicted. It wasn't through a forced effort or desperate pursuit. It was about trusting God's timing and knowing that when the time was right, the right doors would open. When you're walking the path that God has designed for you, you don't need to stress or struggle. You will make a way where you least expect it. He will bring the right people, the right circumstances, and the right opportunities into your life, often at the perfect time when you are ready to receive them. We've all experienced moments in life when we've felt like everything was going wrong, when we couldn't see a way out, and it seemed like the doors were permanently closed. But it's in those moments that God is preparing us for what's ahead. It's in those moments that He's aligning the right opportunities, the right people, and the right circumstances to show us that we're on the right path. All it takes is faith and trust to see it. The next time you feel like you're stuck or you're wondering if the right opportunities will ever come your way, remember these stories. Remember that God's timing is always perfect. Trust that He has already set things in motion for you. And when the time is right, those doors will open. Don't force the doors to open. Trust that when you are on the right path, the right opportunities will come. And they will come at exactly the right moment, just as they did for David and Maria. You don't need to chase them. Just keep moving forward in faith and watch how the opportunities begin to appear. And another powerful sign that you're on the right path is when you start experiencing favor from unexpected places. This is a divine kind of favor that goes beyond what we could ever deserve or plan for. It's the kind of favor that doesn't always come from people we know or even from situations we would have imagined. It's the favor that comes from God's hand, orchestrating things in ways we could never predict. When you're walking on the right path, God will move people, situations, and opportunities in your favor in ways that leave you in awe. Let me share an example with you that really highlights how this favor works. There's a woman named Sarah who had been working for a large company for over 5 years. She was dedicated to her job, worked long hours, and did everything she could to contribute to the company's success. Despite her efforts, she found herself stuck. She wasn't being recognized for her hard work, and promotions seemed to always pass her by. She loved the company and believed in its mission, but something inside her told her that there was more for her, more than just the role she was in. One day, after much prayer and reflection, Sarah decided to take a leap of faith and apply for a new position within the company that was a major step up. It was a position she had always dreamed of, but felt unqualified for, and there were many candidates more experienced than her. But Sarah felt an unexplainable sense of peace and assurance, and she took the step. She submitted her application, and to her surprise, she got an interview. But here's where the story gets interesting. The day of the interview, Sarah arrived early, just like she always did, and greeted everyone in the office with a smile. As she sat in the waiting area, she began talking with a colleague she hadn't spoken to in a while, a senior leader, who was also in the process of making a career change. They spoke briefly about the company's future and how excited they were for the changes coming down the pipeline. Little did Sarah know, this casual conversation would be the turning point. The senior leader, impressed by Sarah's insight and passion, mentioned her in the meeting that followed, recommending her for the position. She couldn't believe it. Not only had she been selected for the role, but she had been promoted into a position that seemed impossible just a few weeks ago. Sarah had worked hard, no doubt, but the favor that led to this promotion wasn't something she could have orchestrated herself. It was God's favor, working in the background, moving people and circumstances in her direction. This was a clear sign that Sarah was on the right path, and God had opened a door that no man could shut. This kind of favor doesn't always make sense on paper. It's not always about qualifications or experience. It's about God's grace and His ability to move things in your favor, even when you don't expect it. God will bring the right people into your life at the right time. He will use people who may not even know they're being used to open doors for you. Favor often comes from the least likely sources, and it's a reminder that God's ways are higher than ours. His favor will find you even when you feel unworthy or when the world seems to be against you. Another incredible example comes from a man named James. James had spent years building his own business, pouring everything into it. But despite his best efforts, his business wasn't growing as he had hoped. He faced constant challenges, financial struggles, competition from larger companies, and a general sense of frustration. One day, after yet another setback, James decided to pray. He had always believed in God's guidance, but he had never seen the kind of favor he was praying for. He asked for direction and for favor in his work, trusting that God would show him the way. Shortly after this prayer, James received a call out of the blue from a potential client. This was no ordinary client. It was a company that could elevate James' business to a whole new level. But what made the situation even more remarkable was how this client found James. They had been searching for a service provider in James's industry and came across his business through an online review. After meeting with James, they were so impressed by his work and his vision that they decided to partner with him. This wasn't just any partnership, it was a game changer for his business. The deal was far more lucrative than anything James had ever imagined, and the exposure it provided took his business to new heights. What's important to understand here is that James didn't hustle or manipulate his way into this opportunity. He didn't cold call the company or fight for a chance. This favor came to him unexpectedly. He didn't have to chase it down. It found him. And this wasn't just a coincidence. It was the favor of God at work. It was a reminder that when you are on the right path, God will move heaven and earth to position you for success. He will open doors that you couldn't have opened on your own. Favor is something that will come to you when you are aligned with God's plan for your life. It's easy to get discouraged when we see others around us seemingly getting all the opportunities, the promotions, the recognition, while we're stuck where we are. But the truth is, God's favor doesn't work on a timetable that we understand. It's not about who has worked the hardest or who has the best resume. It's about His grace, His perfect timing, and His ability to position you exactly where you need to be. When you're on the right path, God will move people to bless you, to help you, and to push you forward. This kind of favor is not something you can earn, and it's not something you can force. It's something that God freely gives, and it's a powerful sign that you are walking in His will. So when you start to see favor showing up from unexpected places, whether it's through people, opportunities, or circumstances that seem to align perfectly, know that it's a sign you are on the right path. It's God's way of confirming that He is with you and that His hand is guiding you toward the future He has prepared for you. Keep moving forward with faith, because when God's favor is on your life, there is no limit to where He can take you. There's an undeniable force within us, an inner drive that pushes us to keep moving forward even when the road ahead seems uncertain, steep, or downright impossible. It's the quiet whisper deep inside that says, "Don't give up now. You've come too far. Keep going." This drive is something that cannot always be explained by logic or reason. It's not based on external circumstances or what people say. It's a deeper, more powerful force that moves us, even when the world around us seems to be telling us to quit. Think about a time when you faced a challenge that seemed insurmountable. Perhaps it was a personal goal, a dream you wanted to achieve, or even a situation that seemed impossible to navigate. Maybe you were in a job you didn't enjoy, struggling with personal relationships, or facing financial hardship. The obstacles might have felt overwhelming, but something inside you told you to keep going. It was this inner drive that refused to let you settle, that wouldn't allow you to give up on what you knew deep down was possible. I remember hearing a story about a man named Thomas who had spent years trying to build a successful business. Despite his efforts, the business never took off. He faced setback after setback, investors pulling out, clients backing out, and competitors getting ahead of him. At times, it seemed like there was no hope left. But through it all, Thomas kept going. He didn't have the answers. He didn't know when it was going to turn around, but there was this deep, quiet drive within him that refused to let him quit. Even on his darkest days, when he felt like throwing in the towel, that drive kept him pushing forward. One day, after years of struggle, Thomas had an idea. He pivoted his business model, embraced a new strategy, and rebranded his company. It was a risky move, but it was the move he felt was right, and it paid off. Within a few months, his business began to gain traction, and the customers he had been dreaming of started coming through the door. That quiet, unshakable drive had kept him going through the hardest moments of his journey, and it was that persistence that ultimately led to success. The story of Thomas shows us that sometimes when everything seems to be falling apart, that inner drive is God's way of telling us to hold on just a little longer. He gives us the strength to continue moving forward even when it feels like we have nothing left. This inner drive is what separates those who eventually succeed from those who give up too soon. It's easy to get discouraged when things don't go as planned, when the road is rocky, and when the finish line seems so far away. But this drive is a reminder that success is often born from resilience. It's about not letting the setbacks define you. When you have that inner drive, you start to view challenges as opportunities to grow, not as obstacles that stand in your way. You develop a mindset that says, this is tough, but I can handle it. I will keep moving forward no matter what. Take Sarah, for example. She was a single mother who dreamed of going back to school to finish her degree. But with 3 kids to raise and a full-time job, it seemed impossible. There were days when she would come home exhausted, feeling like there was no way she could keep up with the workload and the demands of her family. But every morning when Sarah woke up, there was something inside her that told her to keep going. She couldn't ignore that drive, even though it felt overwhelming at times. It wasn't about making huge strides every day. It was about taking one small step forward, no matter how tired or discouraged she felt. She started to carve out small chunks of time for studying between work and caring for her kids. At first, it felt like she wasn't making much progress, but as the weeks went by, she found herself moving closer to her goal. And after several years of juggling it all, Sarah graduated. She did it. That inner drive to keep moving forward, even when the road was tough, was what kept her on track. It was that quiet determination, that refusal to give up, that eventually led her to the finish line. What's so powerful about this inner drive is that it doesn't require grand gestures or spectacular achievements to make a difference. It's about the little things, the small decisions we make every day to keep going, even when we're not sure if we're getting anywhere. It's about waking up each day and deciding that we will take one more step forward, no matter how small, no matter how difficult it feels. This drive doesn't need to come with applause or recognition. It's the quiet persistence that keeps us going when no one else is watching. It's a sign of the strength God has placed inside each of us. This drive also often works in unexpected ways. Sometimes it's not about charging ahead, full force. Sometimes that inner drive manifests as the courage to rest, to step back and to recharge. We often think that persistence means doing more, pushing harder, and never slowing down. But sometimes the drive to move forward is about recognizing when we need a break, when we need to step aside and recalibrate. It's about trusting that God knows when we need to rest so we can come back stronger. This inner drive is more than just motivation or determination. It's a deeper calling. It's a reminder that God has placed a purpose in our hearts. And even when we can't see the full picture, we are called to keep moving forward. It's a reminder that we are not alone in our journey. That inner drive is often God's voice telling us to trust, to keep going, and to lean on Him for strength when we feel like we can't go any further. When you feel like quitting, when you're tired and weary, remember that inner drive. Remember that it's there for a reason. It's God's gift to you. A reminder that you're meant for more, that your journey is not over, and that success is not defined by how fast you get there, but by the persistence and resilience you show along the way. Keep moving forward, even when it's tough. That inner drive will get you where you need to go, step by step, day by day. When you feel energized and motivated, it's as if a new spark has been lit within you, a force that drives you forward with purpose, passion, and determination. This burst of energy isn't just about physical stamina or a fleeting moment of enthusiasm. It's the deep sense of alignment with your goals, your purpose, and the journey ahead. It's when you wake up in the morning excited for the day, when challenges feel like opportunities, and when you can't wait to tackle the tasks at hand. This kind of energy is contagious. People around you start to notice the shift in your attitude, the way you carry yourself, the way you approach challenges, and the way you speak about your dreams and ambitions become infused with a sense of confidence and excitement. This energy isn't just about motivation. It's about tapping into something greater, something that propels you towards success no matter the obstacle. Let's take a moment to look at the power of this energy through the example of a woman named Emily. Emily had always dreamed of starting her own business. She had a vision, a clear idea of what she wanted to do, but the practicalities of life, her job, her responsibilities, the fear of failure, had kept her from taking that leap. For years, she put her dream on hold, telling herself that one day, when the timing was right, she'd take action. Then one day, everything changed. It wasn't a big event or a major breakthrough. It was simply a quiet moment of realization. Emily woke up feeling different. There was an energy coursing through her veins that she hadn't felt in a long time. She knew without a doubt that it was time to stop waiting for the perfect moment and take action. She felt motivated and clear-headed, ready to face the unknowns that came with starting her own business. There was no longer any hesitation, no more second guessing. This new energy propelled her forward. Emily dove into her business plan, researched tirelessly, and reached out to mentors who could help guide her. Her renewed energy fueled her productivity, and what once seemed like an overwhelming challenge now felt like an exciting adventure. She found herself waking up early, eager to get to work, and staying up late, not out of exhaustion, but out of a deep sense of fulfillment and purpose. She was no longer dragging her feet. She was walking with confidence and determination. What's incredible about this energy is that it doesn't just come from external factors. It's an internal shift, a recalibration of your mindset and heart. You begin to see possibilities instead of limitations, solutions instead of problems. The energy is a direct reflection of your alignment with your purpose. When you're in sync with your goals, your vision, and your values, this kind of motivation comes naturally. Have you ever noticed how energy flows in the direction of what you truly care about? It's like when you're doing something that aligns with your passion, time flies and you feel unstoppable. It's not about pushing through exhaustion or forcing yourself to continue. It's about tapping into a deeper source of energy that comes from within. You feel motivated because you are doing what you were meant to do, and this energy propels you towards success, growth, and fulfillment. Take Michael, for example. He had always been passionate about fitness and helping others lead healthier lives. He worked as a personal trainer, but deep down, he wanted to create a program that would make fitness more accessible to people who didn't have time to go to the gym. For years, he had the idea in his mind, but he kept putting it off. Then one day, everything changed. He woke up with a burst of energy, the kind that made him feel like he could take on the world. It wasn't just caffeine or a good night's sleep. It was a fire inside him, urging him to act on his dream. He dove into his project with incredible motivation, pouring his energy into creating an online fitness platform that could help people work out at home. The first few months were tough. There were long hours, technical issues, and moments when Michael wondered if he was crazy to think he could make this work. But the energy he felt kept him going. Every time he faced a challenge, he approached it with enthusiasm, eager to find solutions. And as the platform began to take shape, more and more people started to sign up, sharing their success stories and encouraging others to join. That initial burst of energy carried him through the toughest moments. And today, his online fitness program has helped thousands of people lead healthier lives from the comfort of their own homes. This is the power of feeling energized and motivated. It's not just a fleeting moment. It's a force that propels you forward even when the road gets rough. It's the sense of excitement that comes from knowing you're on the right path. And it gives you the strength to keep moving even when others may doubt you or when things don't go according to plan. When you feel energized, it's a sign that you are aligned with your purpose, and that alignment fuels your motivation. It's like a light inside you that refuses to go out no matter how challenging the circumstances. This energy can transform not only your mindset, but your actions as well. It leads you to take bold steps, to push past fear, and to embrace the unknown with confidence. The beauty of this energy is that it's available to all of us. It's not about being born with a certain level of ambition or talent. It's about tapping into the potential that resides within you. When you truly believe in what you are doing, and when your heart and mind are aligned with your goals, the energy follows. It becomes the fuel that keeps you going, even when the journey seems long or uncertain. So when you feel energized and motivated, embrace it. Know that this is the moment when your dreams can start to become a reality. Use that energy to propel yourself forward, to take action, to break through barriers, and to show up fully in everything you do. That energy is a gift, a sign that you are on the right path. Let it guide you, and you'll find that nothing can stop you. When you gain a strong sense of purpose in your life, everything shifts. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. It illuminates your path, gives meaning to your actions, and fills you with a sense of direction that cannot be ignored. Suddenly you wake up with a renewed sense of energy and determination, knowing exactly why you're doing what you're doing. There's a clarity that clears away confusion, and you start to see how each moment of your life aligns with your greater vision and calling. A strong sense of purpose is one of the most powerful forces that can drive a person forward. Not just about finding what you're meant to do, it's about understanding why you're meant to do it. It's about discovering something that resonates with the deepest parts of your being, something that excites you, challenges you, and makes you feel alive. When you find that purpose, it doesn't just give you motivation, it gives you peace. You no longer feel like you're wandering aimlessly or working towards something that doesn't matter. Instead, every step you take feels significant, even if it's small. Take a moment to think about a time in your life when you felt truly aligned with your purpose. Maybe it was a moment of realization when you discovered what you were passionate about. Or maybe it was the day you decided to pursue a dream that had always been in your heart. For some, this moment comes after years of trial and error, a slow uncovering of what truly matters. For others, it's more of a sudden revelation, a spark that ignites within. Regardless of how it happens, once you gain that sense of purpose, you'll never look at life the same way again. I know of a man named David, a talented musician who spent years playing in small local bands, always wondering if his music would ever go beyond his town. At one point, he was ready to give up. He loved music with all his heart, but the reality of his situation made him question if it was worth continuing. There were many late nights when he'd sit with his guitar, frustrated by the lack of recognition, the constant struggles, and the feeling that he was chasing something out of his reach. But then something changed. David had always been passionate about using his music to inspire others, to make a difference in people's lives. One evening, after an especially tough performance, a woman approached him and shared how his music had helped her through a difficult time. She said it had been the soundtrack to her healing journey, and it had given her the strength to keep going when she didn't think she could. That moment struck David deeply, and he realized that his music was not just about fame or success. It was about touching lives, healing hearts, and spreading hope. That was his purpose. That was why he played. From that day forward, David's entire approach to his music shifted. It wasn't about the crowds or the accolades anymore. It was about using his talent to serve others. He began to write more deeply, focusing on the messages he wanted to send to the world. The sense of purpose that he gained that day gave him the strength to keep moving forward in his career. He no longer felt discouraged by setbacks. Instead, he saw them as opportunities to refine his craft. And over time, his music reached more and more people, touching hearts in ways he had never imagined. What started as a passion for music became a calling, and that calling gave him the clarity and drive he needed to persist. This sense of purpose doesn't just apply to big life dreams. It can be found in the everyday moments as well. Take Rachel, a mother of two who worked as a nurse. For years, Rachel had been going through the motions of life, waking up, going to work, coming home, and doing it all over again. She loved her family, and she cared deeply for her patients, but she often felt like she was just getting through the day, not truly living. She felt disconnected from what she was doing, as if the days were slipping by without much meaning. One evening, while at work, she had a conversation with an elderly patient who had been in the hospital for a while. The patient shared how grateful she was for Rachel's care, how Rachel's kindness and patience had made her feel seen and valued during one of the most vulnerable times in her life. It was in that moment that Rachel had an epiphany. She realized that her work was more than just a job. It was her calling. She had been put in that position to serve, to heal, and to make a difference in the lives of others. She was a light for her patients, offering compassion and comfort during their most difficult moments. This realization changed everything for Rachel. She approached her work with a new sense of purpose. Instead of feeling drained or disconnected, she felt energized by the opportunity to help others. Each day became a chance to serve with intention, and she found joy in small moments of connection with her patients. Her purpose wasn't just in the tasks she performed. It was in the way she made people feel, the difference she was making in their lives. A strong sense of purpose is what allows us to push through adversity, to rise above the challenges that come our way. When we know why we're doing something, we can weather the storms that inevitably arise. It becomes less about the obstacles and more about the mission at hand. Purpose gives us the perspective we need to keep going even when things get tough. It's what fuels perseverance and passion even in the face of difficulties. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. What is your purpose? What is that thing that makes you feel alive, that thing you would do no matter the challenges or setbacks? Maybe you haven't discovered it yet, and that's okay. The journey of finding your purpose is just as important as the purpose itself. But when you do find it, when that sense of clarity washes over you, you will feel like you finally unlocked the secret to living a fulfilling life. The feeling of purpose will give you the motivation to push through even the hardest days and the courage to take risks, knowing that you're walking in the direction you were meant to go. A strong sense of purpose transforms your life. It brings fulfillment, meaning, and a deep satisfaction that goes beyond external success. It's not about what you achieve, it's about why you're doing it. When you know your purpose, you begin to see the world through a different lens. Everything aligns with that higher calling, and you realize that every step, every challenge, and every victory is part of a bigger, more beautiful story. When you begin to see confirmation from God in everyday life, it's as if a veil is lifted and the world around you suddenly becomes full of signs, synchronicities, and moments that affirm your path. It's not about hearing an audible voice or receiving a grand miracle. It's about noticing the subtle ways in which God speaks to you through the ordinary moments of your day. These confirmations aren't always dramatic. They can be as simple as a kind word from a stranger, a book that falls into your hands at just the right time, or a quiet moment of peace when you are feeling overwhelmed. God's confirmation is like a gentle whisper that reassures you that you are on the right track. It's an invitation to pay attention, to trust, and to keep moving forward. Sometimes these signs come when you're at a crossroads, uncertain about the decisions before you. Other times they show up when you least expect it, in a way that fills your heart with hope, peace, and assurance. One of the most powerful examples of this I can think of comes from the life of a man named James. James had always felt a strong pull toward helping others. He worked in a corporate job, but it never quite felt right. He wasn't fulfilled. And deep down, he knew that he was meant to be doing something more meaningful. He had been praying for guidance for months, asking God to show him the way. However, the more he prayed, the more confused he felt. His mind was filled with doubts. What if I'm not hearing correctly? What if I'm just imagining this calling? James wrestled with these questions for weeks, unsure of what to do next. One day, after a long meeting at work, he felt exhausted and discouraged. As he left the office building, he decided to take a walk through the nearby park to clear his mind. As he walked, he passed an old woman sitting on a bench. She looked up and smiled at him, and then she said something that stopped him in his tracks. "You look like you have a kind heart," she said. "Don't forget to follow it, no matter where it leads you. You're meant for more than what you're doing now." The words hit him like a wave of clarity. It wasn't just a coincidence that this woman had spoken to him. Her words felt like a confirmation, a direct message from God that he was on the right track. It wasn't a booming voice from the sky, but it was as if God was speaking to him through this strength. It gave him the courage to take the leap and pursue his true passion of working with at-risk youth. That moment of confirmation was just the beginning of a new chapter in James' life. His work felt more purposeful, and he began to experience a deep sense of fulfillment he had never known before. The confirmation he received wasn't a dramatic event, but it was exactly what he needed at the time. This is how God's confirmation often works. It comes in the form of small nudges that reassure us we're on the right path. God doesn't always work through flashy miracles or dramatic signs. Often he communicates through everyday moments and interactions that speak directly to our hearts. Those moments may seem like coincidences, but they're more than that. They are his way of guiding us, affirming our choices, and offering reassurance when we need it most. Another way confirmation shows up is through the people we encounter. Have you ever had a conversation with someone that seemed to align perfectly with what you were going through? Perhaps a mentor, a friend, or even a stranger offered words of encouragement or insight that gave you the clarity you needed. These conversations are not by accident. They are God's way of providing confirmation through the people around us. They might not even know the significance of what they're saying, but the right words at the right time can feel like a direct answer to prayer. Take Maria's experience, for example. Maria had been struggling with a decision about whether to leave her job and start her own business. She felt restless in her current role and kept wondering if she was supposed to step out and take a risk. But every time she thought about taking that leap, fear and doubt held her back. One day during a lunch break, she was sitting at a cafe when an old colleague from a previous job sat down next to her. They hadn't spoken in years, but they immediately caught up like no time had passed. During their conversation, her colleague mentioned how Maria had always had an entrepreneurial spirit and how she had always admired Maria's creativity. You know, her colleague said, "If anyone can make it on their own, it's you. You have the drive, the talent, and the passion to succeed. Don't let fear stop you from going after what you want." It's as if those words were spoken directly to Maria's heart. She felt a sense of peace and confirmation wash over her. It was clear that God had orchestrated that moment, using her colleague to remind her of the strength and ability she already possessed. Maria left the cafe that day feeling empowered, knowing that the decision she was contemplating was the right one. She took the leap and eventually built a successful business that brought her joy and fulfillment. That conversation was a simple, unexpected moment of confirmation that gave her the courage to move forward. God's confirmation often comes when we least expect it. It might be in the form of a song that plays on the radio, a verse from a book you randomly open, or a conversation with someone who has no idea the impact their words are having on your life. But when these moments happen, you feel an undeniable sense of knowing. It's as if God is telling you, "I see you. I'm with you. Keep going." There are also times when God's confirmation shows up in the form of peace. When we are uncertain or anxious, we may not know what decision to make or which path to follow. But in the midst of the confusion, God offers a sense of peace that passes all understanding. That peace might not erase all the fear or doubt, but it gives us the strength to move forward in faith. When you feel that peace, it's a confirmation that you are aligned with God's will and He is walking with you every step of the way. So when you see confirmation from God in your everyday life, embrace it. These signs are not coincidences. They are God's way of showing you that He is guiding you, affirming your path, and reminding you that you are never alone. Stay open to the small moments of confirmation and trust that God is working in the background, orchestrating everything for your good. Whether it's through a conversation, a piece of advice, or a moment of inner peace, God is speaking to you. He is confirming that you are on the right track and He is with you every step of the way. When you begin letting go of things that no longer serve you, it's like shedding layers of weight that have been holding you back for years. These layers might not be physical, but their effect on your life is just as real. It could be an old habit, a toxic relationship, a negative mindset, or even material possessions that no longer bring joy or purpose. Letting go isn't just about discarding things. It's about creating space for new growth, for healing, and for the future you're meant to embrace. At first, it might feel uncomfortable. After all, letting go often means confronting the familiar, the things that have shaped you, or the situations that have been a part of your life for so long. But in truth, these things were never meant to stay forever. They served a purpose for a season, and now that purpose has passed. By holding on to them out of fear or habit, you prevent yourself from experiencing the full potential of what life has to offer. Take the example of Sarah, a woman who had always struggled with the weight of guilt from past mistakes. She had made decisions in her youth that she regretted, and those regrets shaped the way she saw herself for years. Every time she tried to move forward, those old feelings would resurface, causing her to question her worth and whether she truly deserved happiness. She clung to this guilt because, deep down, she thought it defined her. Letting go of it felt like letting go of a part of herself. However, one day Sarah attended a seminar where the speaker shared the story of a man who, after years of carrying the weight of his past, finally realized that he had the power to forgive himself and release the chains of regret. As the speaker spoke, Sarah felt a deep stirring in her heart. She realized that her past mistakes didn't have to define her, and she didn't have to carry the burden of guilt forever. That was the moment she made the conscious decision to let go of what no longer serves her. The guilt, the shame, and the self-doubt. Slowly but surely, she began to release those feelings, and in doing so, she made room for self-compassion, growth, and a sense of freedom she had never known. It's often like that with the things we need to let go of. There's a defining moment or a realization that shakes us awake. Maybe it's the moment you decide to end a relationship that's been draining you, or the day you choose to step away from a job that no longer excites you. It's not always easy, and there may be fear or uncertainty that comes with the decision, but the freedom that follows is priceless. Letting go can also come in the form of material possessions. Many people are held back by clutter in their lives, physical, mental, and emotional clutter. We accumulate things over time, thinking that they bring us happiness, only to realize that they are just distractions keeping us from living with purpose. Perhaps it's an old collection of clothes you've been holding on to because they remind you of the past, or furniture that no longer fits your style or your needs. Whatever it is, letting go of material possessions that no longer serve you is a powerful act of liberation. It's a way of saying, I'm ready to make space for something new, something that aligns with who I am today and who I want to become. Take Jonathan, for example. Jonathan had always been a collector. Over the years, he had amassed a significant collection of items, old books, vintage toys, and souvenirs from past trips. He had told himself that these things were part of his identity, that they told the story of who he was. But over time, Jonathan began to realize that he had become a prisoner to his possessions. His house was cluttered, his mind was cluttered, and he felt weighed down by the constant need to care for, clean, and store these items. He started to question why he was holding on to so many things that no longer brought him joy. One day, after a conversation with a friend about minimalism and the importance of clearing physical and mental space, Jonathan felt inspired. He decided it was time to let go of the things that no longer served him. At first, it was difficult. Some items held sentimental value, while others represented a past version of himself he wasn't ready to part with. But as he began to declutter his home, he noticed something incredible happening. The more he let go, the more he felt a sense of lightness and clarity. His house felt bigger, more spacious, and his mind began to feel clearer as well. The act of letting go wasn't just about getting rid of possessions. It was about freeing himself from the hold that these things had over him. Jonathan's life became more focused and intentional. He had room for new experiences, new opportunities, and most importantly, more peace. Letting go is also about releasing old habits that keep you stuck in cycles of negativity or self-sabotage. Maybe you have a habit of procrastination that holds you back from reaching your goals. Or you find yourself constantly worrying about things that are beyond your control. These habits no longer serve you, and they prevent you from stepping into your fullest potential. Letting go of these habits requires conscious effort and commitment, but it's one of the most liberating decisions you can make. Consider the story of Jack, a man who had spent years procrastinating on his goals. He had always dreamed of writing a book, but every time he sat down to start, he found himself distracted by other tasks, or he'd tell himself he wasn't good enough to complete the project. For years, Jack let fear and self-doubt hold him back from pursuing his passion. But one day, after reading about the power of taking small, consistent steps toward your goals, Jack realized that his habit of procrastination was no longer serving him. It was keeping him stuck in a cycle of unfulfilled dreams. He decided to let go of the excuses and the fear that had kept him paralyzed. It wasn't easy at first. Jack had to push through discomfort, tackle his fears, and commit to writing every single day, no matter how small the progress seemed. But as he did, he began to feel a sense of empowerment. The more he let go of his old habit of procrastination, the more he stepped into his true potential. Eventually, Jack finished his book, and the process not only brought him closer to his dreams, but also taught him the importance of letting go of the things that no longer served him. Habits, doubts, and fears that kept him from moving forward. When you begin letting go of things that no longer serve you, you open yourself up to a world of new possibility. It's a process of clearing the old to make space for the new, whether that's new opportunities, new relationships, or new ways of thinking. It's about freeing yourself from the things that weigh you down and embracing the freedom to move forward with a clear mind and an open heart. Letting go is an act of self-care, self-respect, and self-love, and as you do, you create the space for the life you truly desire to unfold. Finding joy in the journey, not just in the destination, is a powerful mindset shift that transforms how we experience life. It's so easy to become fixated on the end goal, the prize, or the destination that we forget to enjoy the process of getting there. We live in a world where the pressure to achieve and succeed can make us feel like the journey is just a means to an end. But the truth is, the journey is where the real growth, learning, and fulfillment happen. The destination is just a fleeting moment. The journey is where we build character, make memories, and truly live. Think about it. So often we set a goal like getting a promotion, buying a house, or losing weight, and we tell ourselves, I'll be happy when I achieve this. We think that happiness is tied to the outcome. But when we reach the destination, we find that the happiness is fleeting and the cycle starts all over again. We set new goals, telling ourselves that we're happy when we achieve the next thing. This cycle can leave us feeling unfulfilled, constantly chasing something that always seems just out of reach. But what if we flip that narrative? What if the joy wasn't just in crossing the finish line, but in every step we take along the way? What if we learn to savor the process, the lessons, and the small victories that happen as we move toward our goals? This is the secret to living a fulfilled life, finding joy in the journey itself. Let me share the story of Emily, a woman who learned to embrace the journey and found fulfillment in the process rather than the destination. Emily had always dreamed of running a marathon. For years, she watched other people cross the finish line and felt inspired by their achievements. She imagined the pride she would feel when she could finally say she had completed a marathon. But there was one problem. Emily didn't enjoy running. She wasn't naturally athletic, and every time she tried to go for a run, it felt like a struggle. But despite this, she kept setting the goal, telling herself that once she ran that marathon, she would feel accomplished and happy. One day, after yet another difficult run, Emily realized something that changed her perspective forever. She was exhausted, discouraged, and frustrated, but instead of quitting, she paused and took a deep breath. She noticed the sounds of the birds, the rustling of the leaves in the trees, and the way the sun was shining through the clouds. She realized that in her pursuit of the finish line, she had missed the beauty of the journey, the fresh air, the time to herself, and the sense of peace that came with being outdoors. That moment of awareness shifted everything for her. From that day forward, Emily stopped focusing solely on the goal of completing the marathon. She began to appreciate each run, no matter how short or difficult. She found joy in the act of moving her body, in the quiet moments of reflection as she ran, and in the sense of accomplishment she felt after each training session. As she continued to train, Emily stopped measuring her success by how far she had to go into the marathon and instead celebrated each small victory along the way. The day she ran a mile without stopping, the time she improved her pace, the way she felt stronger after each run. When the day of the marathon finally arrived, Emily crossed the finish line with a sense of fulfillment. But it wasn't because she had completed the race. It was because of the journey that led her there. She had learned to find joy in the process of becoming a runner, not just in the moment of finishing the race. That was the true reward. Emily's story is a perfect example of how the journey can be just as meaningful as the destination. She learned that joy doesn't come from reaching a specific goal, but from the growth, the learning, and the experiences we gain along the way. When we learn to appreciate the steps, we begin to see that the journey itself is a destination in and of itself. Each day becomes an opportunity to grow, to stretch, and to appreciate the little moments that make up the big picture. Another example comes from a woman named Maria, who spent years working toward a promotion at work. She was laser focused on the idea of becoming a manager, believing that this title would finally bring her the recognition and respect she deserved. For months, she poured herself into her work, often sacrificing time with family and friends. She became consumed with the idea of getting there. But as time went on, Maria began to feel burnout and a sense of dissatisfaction. She had achieved many of the things she thought would bring her happiness, but the joy she expected from the destination wasn't there. It was then that Maria had a breakthrough. One morning after a particularly stressful week, she decided to take a break and go for a walk in the park. As she walked, she noticed the simple beauty of the world around her. The laughter of children playing, the serenity of the trees swaying in the wind, and the calmness of the lake nearby. For the first time in a long time, Maria felt a deep sense of peace. She realized that in her pursuit of the promotion, she had missed out on so many of the small, beautiful moments that made life rich. Maria decided to shift her perspective. She stopped focusing so much on the destination and started to find joy in the work she was already doing. She began to take pride in her daily tasks, celebrating the small wins and finding purpose in each project. She connected more deeply with her colleagues, enjoyed lunch breaks with friends, and started taking better care of herself outside of work. The pressure she had placed on herself lifted, and she found a deeper sense of fulfillment in her job, whether or not she got the promotion. As time went on, Maria found that she was more productive and happier at work. Eventually, she was offered the promotion she had once thought would bring her happiness, but by the time it came, she realized that the joy she had been seeking was never in the title. It was in the journey, in the process of growing, learning, and enjoying the present moment. Finding joy in the journey doesn't mean you stop setting goals or working toward your dream. It means that you learn to embrace the process, the ups and downs, the struggles and triumphs as part of what makes life rich. It's about being present in the here and now instead of always looking ahead to the next milestone. When you shift your focus to the journey, you open yourself up to a deeper, more meaningful experience of life. You begin to celebrate the progress, not just the end result. And in doing so, you find a lasting, sustainable joy that goes beyond any single achievement. So, as you go through your own journey, remember that the destination is just a moment. The real beauty is in the process, the growth, and the experiences you have along the way. Find joy in each step, and you'll discover that life, in all its unpredictability and messiness, is a beautiful adventure in itself.